is a head of digital automation and enterprise architecture for Avaya, and I'm talking about Rameshwar Balanagu. Rameshwar, please go ahead and turn on your camera so that we can welcome you. Rameshwar is an experienced enterprise architect and head of Digital Automation Center of Excellence. He is a member of the Forbes Technology Council, active speaker, blogger, and focus on various aspects of technologies and digital transformation. He runs the second largest automation group known as DFWRPA that focuses on all things related to automation. He's also an advisor on various startups, including esports, cybersecurity, and blockchain companies. Rameshwar, it's a real pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to sharing your leadership and expertise with our global audience today.
Hi, Jose. Thank you for having me time and again. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, especially with the octane that you have. Hopefully, I can contribute. What a wonderful presentation I've followed in the last 2 days. Eminent speakers, wealth of knowledge. Thanks for co-orchestrating this, and I love these sessions. With that, I'll just say, the Delta wave is coming. Everybody be safe. So let's focus on our, finding the jewels. So basically, I'd like to give a gig about what we've done in Avaya, and then we will talk a little bit more on process discovery and compliance. So, we said, I've come from an enterprise architecture. The problem or what we've seen is enterprise architecture has always been an ivory tower. We work on more on manual or static basis. We spend time with the stakeholders, trying to understand what the pain is, and then we build the capabilities, the value chains, and the process maps, L0 to L3, which most of you, I believe, know. So the problem is this is a holistic nirvana we want to have, but the reality is people, process, technology change. And so do business models change. Current environments, pandemic has thrown different challenges. Once we thought we could have a grip of it, we had the global supply chain, the Suez Canal blockchain. This is the world we live, and added to this was we have complexities from from the policies and the regulations and whatnot. And to add to more fun, we have global warming. So there's a lot that's happening, whether you accept or not. The business models are no longer just focused on revenue engine. The business models need to focus on more and more on sustenance. Earth is burning. I need not say that. So your business models have to change dynamically. So we wanted to have a holistic view. Again, a holistic is an evolution, but an overall process transformation view. With that in mind, I have moved from an enterprise architecture to a digital automation COE, and we'll walk a little bit of a journey and then come back to the compliance. So let's get started on a journey. So when, again, coming from an EA world, BPM is something very valuable for us. The problem with the BPM is we've spent expensive tools, time, and then when it comes to ROI, it is very similar to data governance, where it is very hard to justify. As a result, what has happened with BPM is companies have been successful, but not so successful. In the late 1990s, and I would attribute to Professor, the godfather of process mining, Van der Last, he talked about event-driven correlation. So when you talk about it, it's a strong course for everybody and anybody who wants to do on process mining from Coursera. Fundamentals that talks about PetroNet modeling and XCS. The core thing of process mining, and this is what some people might differ from me, the object of process mining is process discovery, which is the core fundamental principle of BPM2. We've done in the BPM the traditional way, a manual way of process discovery. Using the technology, process mining helps in doing process discovery. I would not like to challenge anyone, but the objective of process mining is not automation. The objective of process mining is to do a basic process discovery, which is known as is. Then, if you can see to the left, I've talked about what process mining capabilities are. It's an accelerated business process discovery. People have started talking, we started with process mining. There are a lot of processes that sit on a user's laptop, which never come into your systems. How do we do with it? What we call is task mining. It's all under the umbrella of process discovery, where you do a task mining or a process mining or even manual process discovery. The objective of process discovery is to understand what on earth is happening to a process from a systems per se or from a user perspective. So this is so relevant to BPM because once you understand the process, the next thing is you could do a process model. A model is could be a living and a breathing model, or if you create a new business model, you don't have a living and breathing model. It's a simulation or a model, just like a blueprint you create from your home. So when you create for your home for the first time, you can use various techniques. So process mining actually helps you in the process modeling. And again, through the life cycle of a BPM, all the way from a process modeling to a strategy, because process discovery using process mining, which is an accelerated way, it supports all the core cycles. So now you could move faster and accelerate faster, either from a top line or a bottom line, or even creating new models. So it's the debate when I hear people, is it BPM versus PI or BPM is dead, long live PI? No, PI is a subset of BPM. That's my view. That's my disclaimer. So coming to this, all of this, whether you take BPM or process intelligence, the whole objective of this is digital transformation. Uh, if you would have Googled, if you would have seen in the last year, there has been a much of discussion or a debate: is digital transformation digitization or digitalization? I will leave it to it, but I follow one of the MIT professors on what the difference is between digitization and digitalization. Digitization is basically any tool technology, even if you use a Lean Sigma or a process discovery to find out what your complex is. To improve the experience is digitization. Digitalization is using these digitization techniques. How can you bring new business models? Maybe you moved from an on-prem to a subscription model, or you created new customer models. This is digitalization. Again, it's something that everybody keeps debating, but the whole objective of digital transformation is to not just improve the customer experience, is to touch every employee in your organization. The moment when you touch an employee of your organization, and if you can engage better, you have a better product, a better experience. And this is possible because you can now make a digital twin with process mining. So the definition of the digital twin has not come from process mining. It's actually coming from NASA. In NASA, when it had a problem with its Apollo 13 rockets, it used a digital twin model to find out where the problems with the oxygen cylinders are. They fixed that on the Earth using stacking paper and data, and then they could help the astronauts come back to Houston safely. The same concept of digital twin, got accelerated with IoT and Industry 4.0, but process mining from an enterprise accelerated even further. So with that, like again, and like as an enterprise architect, I always look towards a North Star. Our North Star is when we start any journey, we look at a maturity roadmap of 3 to 5 years. Now, unfortunately, the world we live, 3 to 5 years is a long curve. You probably have to be looking at 6 months to 1 year and evolve based on the business models. So when we looked at the overall process transformation, process discovery, like you see at the very beginning is at the key tenet of it, and then it evolves. There are key components that we have looked at. We need a process discovery tool. That's both task mining and process mining. We need a process modeling tool. So once you build a process, we want process transparency. If I and Jose have to talk, we both have to talk in English. But if I and Jose have to talk on process, we both need to understand what a process is. So our core thing was, once we have the process discovery, we have a process repository where the BPM processes are built and shared across the line of business for them to understand what process are we talking about. The problem without just discovery is if you don't have a process maps, then it's very much siloed like yet another shiny object tool where it's with you and you only know it. So we wanted to make this whole process, make it transparent, and then we are governed by data. So if you see these wheels for us, we have multiple components that help us in various parts of our process transformation journey. And to the right, like no other, like every other maturity curve, we are between the managed to optimized. but that is the growth curve we are looking. And again, this whole process transformation, need not say, it's bottom up and top down. You know, process mining is considered more, or process discovery, which is more bottom up. BPM is more strategic in nature because it's aligned with the objectives. But the objectives, once they get into the execution, they are fundamentally different. So the strategy to execution becomes disjointed. With the help of process mining, you can bring back your execution and say how the gaps are between strategy to execution. And this is where our maturity roadmap of managed helps us go in this direction. This is a North Star we have just embarked a couple of months back. We are looking at a 3 to 5 year roadmap. So now coming to the maturity, what are the benefits when you look at a process mining or process discovery? To the left, if you see, we have our standard process improvement guys, the Lean Six Sigma, the BPR guys. If you have done those, all the way it starts from to the right till the security. Now, many people have asked, where do we introduce process mining? If you introduce process mining as a tool, then the success is limited. What we've said is, let's go back to the line of business. Let's talk KPIs. Let's not talk, is this a pain? Is this a pain? Let's go back. You take the example of whether you're in a procure to pay or not at a cash. You have your leading and your lagging indicators. Your lagging indicators is something like a DSO. Let's talk to them on what are your KPIs? What are your pain points? If we talk from a process or from an automation, then the objectives are short term and myriad, in my view. So when you talk strategically from a KPIs and say, what, maybe with our tool, with our latest tech of process discovery, albeit aka process mining, we could help you understand your KPIs. Your lagging KPIs for last quarter were these. Let's do a discovery, because process mine or process discovery is a scientific journey using data and process. So once when we show that, we won't be able to show instant results in the first quarter or second quarter, but we know where exactly our pain is, and then you can evolve. Now, as you evolve, you can see to the right, I'm talking more on risk management, which is the core of today's thing. The core of process discovery, like many have said, and even I've said, is as is discovery. The biggest benefit that you have in compliance is when we do statistics, we do sampling approach. Or when we do an AI-based approach, we are still looking at a data set. But when we look from a process mining or process discovery, you are looking at a holistic end-to-end process. When you look at that holistic end-to-end process, your data with your process becomes much more richer. AI is biased. You all know that. AI is biased because of the sampling of the data that's done. Even though we've sampled, we've changed it to larger data sets, it still depends on the data. So your AI is only effective when there is unbiased view. But when you take this combination of data with process, you are bound to be much more accurate. Now, don't undermine the effectiveness of AI, because once you understand the process and data, you feed it back into AI. Actually, there's a lot of AI being embedded into process mining from a deep learning and all. Your risk gets much more effective and minimized. So the biggest benefit with process mining, in my view, is you can do a holistic approach than a sampling approach. Everything else you all would have heard. So this is something, if you Google this on survey, and I've actually Googled it on, basically I'll come back. If you talk compliance, when I talk to the compliance people, if you have talked to the governance and risk and compliance team, they talk of compliance. But if you really look at it, compliance looks at a multifold. The moment your company is established, like I work with startups, the journey of a startup to an elephant is always bound by compliance risks. When we mean compliance from a business, our processes are supposed to provide seamless experience to the customer. If I do not provide a seamless experience, then I have a business problem or I have a fatigue issue. That's still a compliance issue. Then when I move to the right, and the systems. Good Lord, last year, I don't know if you've known, and actually yesterday, blockchain was hacked. 650 million or billion, I don't remember, of Polygon was hacked. When the epiphany that blockchain cannot be hacked, you guys know what's happening. Technology is hacked. Any technology that's hacked, we can be compromised. So we live in a world of zero trust, not for today, but we live in an eternity where we cannot trust people, we cannot trust enterprise, we cannot trust friends, we cannot trust systems or data. Everything is breachable and manipulated. So that's again a system of compliance. And then people, for good or bad reasons, we've had the Exxons and the whatnot. Some greedy people, in order to get their benefits, do take it for a ride. Uh, and the last but not least is the global risk and external regulation management. I kind of talked about the Suez Canal. I don't know how many of you are in the chip industry and the logistics industry. Suez Canal was, first of all, we haven't come back from pandemic. The global paper shortage. This is a classic case being written in Kellogg, MIT, Harvard on the paper shortage. As of when we recovered for that, the network effects, we had the Suez Canal. Every chip, if you guys are planning to buy a car, you know the pain. If you want something else, um, the swimming pools are in craze in Texas. Every house wants to have a swimming pool. There's a big backlog. That's because there's a shortage of labor, there's a shortage of paper. Even there's shortage of chlorine. I don't know if you all know that. If you go to Home Depot or Lowe's, all these are risks that put a constraint on delivery. And then, finally, the regulations. We had GDPR, we had CCPA, India is putting its laws, Australia is putting its laws for the better of it, and so on. And then, there's a new trend called platforms. Platforms are overtaking, like the Google, Uber, Airbnb are taking back. How do you deal with all these regulations? To understand your process. So compliance in net effect is not just and compliance or cybersecurity or SOX. It's enterprise, external, and internal. So and again, this is some of the examples. Like to the left, if you see, these are some of the examples for compliance. I've deliberately put lagging and leading indicators and SLAs to show that if we don't deliver on time, or if we are not able to hit our revenue, you know what? It's a compliance issue. If our leading indicator is showing for Q4, if my results are not good, investors are not going to take it. Is it? They're going to bang me to death. I need to be in a position to make my life better. And some of the challenges or problems, like I mentioned, is people, standards, limited visibility, and you won't believe this is something. There is a FOMO and a shiny app syndrome. If in the world of automation, there is a lot of hype. Again, excuse me, there is way too much hype in the automation, and there are so many buzzwords being thrown. Without even understanding, we are bringing technology without aligning with other teams. And then, we were calling legacy silos, we are creating modern silos. We are doing it because with the purchase of credit card, we are buying shiny apps and we are showing instant celebrity and gratitude. But then, because we've just automated a part of the process, not understood the whole process of it, we are creating multiple tools for the same thing. So all these are creating modern shiny debt. So again, there'll be new terms and new all. So all these things will actually create the compliance gap even more. But luckily, I had done this. Actually, this is from KPMG. Most of the CIOs all believe that automation is the key. The only way that they can evolve in compliance and stick to these ever-changing enterprise regulations, like I said, from the enterprise or from an enterprise, the only way is embrace automation. These are the metrics that I've got. Again, these are publicly available from KPMG. And again, everybody agrees. I am part of some GRC committees. Everybody agrees that the wheel spinning onto the left is the key, which is data drives everything. Analytics, process mining, bots, ML, AI. The benefits of using this holistic automation, not one tool, is you have a better chance of improving your effort. Compliance guys are not cheap and it's expensive. And then you need proper resources. So you can reduce your costs, you can reduce your compliance costs, you can deliver to the compliance industry and to your standards faster. And not only you have an improved compliance outcome, a better compliance outcome is a better satisfaction. I don't know if you guys have worked with the compliance guys. One thing is they have a checklist. If you give them the checklist well in advance, they are happy. But if you don't give them the checklist what they want, they can make your life miserable. I hope no compliance guys takes me an offense. So with these tools, you can make your life better rather than waiting for your midnight oil to burn. Sorry. Uh, then now let's come. Now this was more about how we have approached in Avaya. Let's go back to our core of process mining, process discovery, and compliance. So, like I said, the core objective of process discovery is understand the process, and you reduce the compliance with holistic sampling. To the left, we are going from the right to the left. This is the process mining lifecycle I believe in. The next part of the quadrant to the left, people may believe, people might believe. For us, process modeling is a key. We don't want to just discover and act on it. We believe a strong modeling capability and strong repository take us a long way, because when we automate a process, when the compliance teams comes back, if they ask us, what's your model? We'll be in a position to understand. So by modeling it, we export these models and then we add attributes which we couldn't add in the process discovery. Then we can enrich this for further simulation. Could you do simulation to process mining? Yes, but the problem with process mining is if it's a new model being created, there's nothing in it, so you can't do it. So that's why for us, once we do the process discovery, the key is the modeling. Once we do the modeling, the next part is the monitoring. I'll actually run through with a couple of variances. The objective of the process discovery, once it shows is it can show you the variances. Once you identify the variances, you can identify the gaps. The gaps could be a revenue gap or a compliance, like all the way that I've told from an internal to an external. You could simulate this with the data points and then start reducing the variances one by one. And then ultimately you get into an optimization mode. This is a life cycle that goes on where you do a continuous monitoring and what we call as a cockpit effect. A cockpit effect is basically taking your KPIs or a strategy to execution and showing you how your lagging and leading indicators are as compared to prior quarter to this, as compared to prior year this year, and how do you continuously improve. And if you see, the end effect of all of this is called automation. Anywhere in this life cycle, I have not put automation at the beginning. Automation is the after effect. You have discovered the process, you looked at it from a compliance, could you improve the process? If you could not improve the process, is this a data issue? And if not, finally, could we use automation? And again, automation is just not the bots. I've been telling this many times. Automation means everything. It's the workflow management, it could be APIs, it could be ETL, it could be the bots. Use the best tool where it makes sense. So this is how we have it in action. Sorry, I think this is. Jose, is this better? The camera is coming a little bit for me.
It looks good from this end. I can see process mining in action being shown.
Right. So this is how, again, the classic case. I couldn't pull out much data. This is from a tool called Signavio. Basically, if you can see, this is the process discovery. Like we all agreed, and you all know by the time, the whole object of process discovery is doing an as-is. So over in a period of time and over an evolution, we have evolved, systems have evolved. So, probably we have more than 100 variants. And the thick band is telling this is the most frequently traveled. And then when we look into the right, if you see, these are the variants that are kind of showing me explicitly how many are with conformance and without conformance. So this is exactly what I call as once you're done with the discovery, you look at your KPIs, then you can start attacking all those variants. You don't want to explore all the variants. You want to explore with high dollar value or high time value. Again, these are attributes you define. You look at those and then you start optimizing them. BPR is a much abused word, which was there when ERP was there. Nobody talks about it, but it's coming back. So you process improve it, improve the process or whatnot. You digitize or you digitalize. I will leave it to you. But that's the whole thing is once you discover this process, you look at the variances, you address them, and then you start optimizing it. And then finally, not but not least, you look at the automation. So when we looked at the process discovery, SAP has some terminology called value drivers, and I am a big fan of Google OKRs. OKRs is not for today. It's very simple. It's objective key result. Why are we looking at process discovery? to improve the compliance. But the compliance needs an objective. We are improving compliance is a very generic statement versus saying we will be improving compliance of procure to pay of that variant by 20%. So the objective is very clear. In this quarter, this compliance feed, you will fix it. The key results, what we are telling is, we probably looking at the data based on what you're seeing, we probably can reduce it by 20%. And in order to do the actions, what all we need to do, identify the variant, fix it. I've taken multiple examples. You look at the variant, is this compliance issue because of a data quality issue? Let's go fix it. If this is an issue because there is no user at the time, let's put a bot. And then ultimately you measure. See, there's a saying by John Doerr, measure what matters. You can't measure, you have nothing. Your KPIs will actually tell you how good you are doing on your compliance. So we look, like I said, we look at the lagging indicators, and with the help of process discovery and looking at the compliance, we can say our KPIs or lagging indicators can be better off for next quarter. Like if you see at the bottom, from a sales side, I have a DSO, delinquent ratio, whatnot. And then from a customer satisfaction, it's CSAT and whatnot. These are still KPIs, compliance. If I can't deliver in this SLA, then I have a compliance issue. In today's world, if a customer is not happy, it's very easy to switch from one customer to another. So the whole objective is we take a scientific approach of not just looking at the compliance, but results should have an action, and that action method needs a madness. Madness needs method. So once we got all of this, our holistic journey is, this is how we view process discovery as an integral part of our process transformation. All the way from our enterprise architecture, which focuses on strategy and value chains, to the digital twin, which becomes a living and breathing model, to the extreme right side, where we talk of cockpit, which is strategy to execution. We look at from the process discovery or identify the process, look at the compliances, whatever action is done, we need to take it. And this process transformation vision is being fueled for us by process discovery. So process discovery is, or like I said, fast mining or process mining, whatever we do, is integral and the foundation part of our whole process transformation journey. So with that, Jose, am I on time?
You're better than on time. You're even early.
Oh, okay.
Outstanding.
I thought you cut off my slides, some of the slides.
No, terrific, Rameshwar. What a great presentation. What a great review from, and that very last panel you share with all of us on the vision and mission strategy, and then everything that follows that. So it represents very well your presentation. You have covered how it goes from vision to strategy to the tactical side in this 30 minutes that you have shared with us here. So we deeply appreciate that. I'm gonna ask you to stop showing your screen to the audience so that I can bring my camera on, and I'm gonna probe and share with you the questions that have come up from our audience as you're presenting. And I encourage our audience to continue to make comments and pose questions to Rameshwar during the time that we have here for this Q&A. First of all, I wanna verbatim say something that William Fuller, one of the participants, typed while you're presenting, and that yes, good, you're back on camera. He says, holistic, great view of the enterprise approach with all of its opportunities and constraints. Hope he offers more with respect to the maturity model. Everybody who has done this for more than a decade looked at what you're presenting and said, well, that maturity model depiction is very wise because you show the different levels of maturity, you show the different kind of capabilities you may have in an organization, from leadership commitment all the way down to the nuts and bolts of tools and technology. Tell us a little bit more about the maturity model, Rameshwar. The components of it, why it's important to have that vision, because I think a lot of people are missing some of those components, some of those capabilities. They are implementing, technology, and as we both know, that's a short game. So how can we play the long game of value creation? And if you can talk more about that model.
Yeah, Jose, it's a big question. I could probably speak 30 minutes, but stop me. So again, there's an article I'm writing called The Deja Vu of Enterprise. As an enterprise architect, I was always focused on strategy, value chains, BPM. But the problem is we only knew strategy. We didn't know execution. Like I said, the fundamental problem with execution is people value change. So our operating model was different from the business model, or we could not act timely. So then this is my journey, again, not necessarily. What I felt is there's a fundamental disconnect between EA and delivery. That is why EA is branded as an ivory tower. And I was feeling I was not contributing much as an EA. I started the journey through of the automation. It's an interesting journey. I was focusing on containers. One day my CA came and said, Ramesh, where is the roadmap for automation? I said, sure, you have, there you go. There is a container roadmap. We are going into microservices, Istio, this, that. He said, no, Ramesh, there's something RPA. I said, I don't know what on earth is RPA. So I started digging into it. And then sooner than later, because I come from an EA and a BPM world, I felt RPA by itself has no merit. Again, no offense to anyone. It needs a proper process. The big thing for RPA needs a proper process discovery. If process discovery is a failure, your automation is a failure. Soon, I started this course. Actually, I took the course from Vandral from Professor. I wrote this exam on course on December 31st, 2017. After I read this whole thing of how you could do the process discovery, the next day I was dreaming, you know what? This is something, the deck that I had, I could make process discovery faster and I could get the management back. But if I went with the technology of process mining, first thing they'll ask is, Ramesh, how much does it cost? First of all, we don't understand what process mining is because we're used to BPM word. So we went from the automation team focused only on automation. We started building the process and we didn't do automation. And I will say very happily and proudly, I have a metric where I say number of automations rejected because the process was flawed. And if you use automation, that's a wrong success. But in the industry, we have celebrated a lot of success with RPA. So slowly showing the process and the pain points to the functional business, they started appreciating it. Then I took the journey. So holistic. We are in our year 3. So the roadmap that I put is 4 years back, but it doesn't change. It's a journey. I took these processes from L3, L2, L1, which you can easily build in process mining. Then I went back to the enterprise architecture. I said, listen, unless the business capabilities and the processes don't marry, you don't have a real-time visibility into our execution. So we went back and started integrating with our EA tools. And once we got this whole digital twin concept, now the management started understanding. Again, as a part of this journey, not just showing the process and all, I didn't go to the management, if you have heard me very clearly, and saying, hey, I have a too cool tech to solve your problem. Let's talk your business KPIs. Okay, we have finance. Let's talk about our KPIs. If you're okay, let's talk. We have some tools that can help make your KPIs better. The moment when we started talking the lagging and the leading indicators, and I didn't talk of process mining. All I said is we have process tools because if I talk of an XES model or the attributes are non-functional, nobody's going to look at us. So it was in a shadow mode under my umbrella. We started the process. We went back to them with their KPIs and said, your KPIs could be effectively improved because these data points and these processes have a chance. Should we automate? We have the bots, APIs, or should we improve the process? And if they say, you know what, let's say we're going to HANA, there's no need of improving it. It's a short-term fix, go fix the bot. So the KPIs actually are the bridging gap for you and the business. This approach, rather than looking, again, I keep telling it again and again, process discovery is meant for for only understanding the process. Automation is an after effect. This is something completely many people will not agree, but all the RPA folks would only love to see it from an RPA. If you take that approach, you're myopic. If you have to talk KPIs, you have to talk to your business from a business capabilities and from an L0 to L3, they will engage further and they will actually help you drive this faster. So it's a long story that we have embarked. We are at 15-20%. We have a long way to go. But that's how we've been able to be successful in communicating on their language rather than talking about the tools. I have all the cool tools and then I can make your life better. That simply doesn't work.
Very well, very well. I have a question here that's is a statement and a bit of a I'll paraphrase to my best capability. But it's a real specific case that this leader is dealing with. He is in an organization which is large, complex, and by all measures successful. Very profitable organization. But there is tremendous opportunities for improvements and innovations and related to the organization's processes. And he has tried unsuccessfully to drive business process management from the top, aligning the key, identifying with the leadership, the key business processes, and then setting up the structure. But what he has experienced is that is taking a long time. It's very complex because the organization at the high level is easy. It has a few key business processes that you identify as the value chain. But when you start looking at the sub processes, there are a tremendous level of complexity. You know, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of sub processes in each one of these main processes. So it's very easy to kind of get lost in this journey and get overwhelmed. It starts to feel like you're trying to solve world hunger after a while because of all this complexity. So the question is, the support from leadership is a bit lukewarm because leadership sees it as a valuable, but is very procedurally driven and very process driven, and that's both good and bad because in the eyes of the leadership, there's too much structure to be developed, so they become a little overwhelmed. They checked out. Also, process owners, it's really hard to nail down who the process owners are for some of these areas, and people for political reasons sometimes just kind of give up on trying to do it. And so this is a real messy situation here, but it's one that I would say that a lot of organizations go through. So is it better, in his question, this is all to set up the question, is it better that although I understand the strategic view, that I have a little bit of a hybrid approach, that I have the top view, I have that view in mind, but I need to start finding some point opportunities down here to create value through this process optimizations so that I can get the commitment to nail process owners to certain processes and in a good way, and to also get leadership buy-in on this, because the strategic view from the top is very good, but when your leadership doesn't quite get it, the question here is that we may need to do a little bit of both.
It sounds like my own pain. So as I said, EA, BPM.
He's like, oh, this guy works for Avaya. No, I don't think it does. But it's, the reality is that this is a really good question. It's a long statement and question, but it's a really good question because I think that most organizations are dealing with this at a certain level.
So since I'm recorded on the camera, I can say some I cannot say. EA, BPM, data governance are must needed, but most abused and most undervalued. I hear your pain, and like I said, the journey is exactly like yours. So that's where I switch to. I hear you. The thing is, with the process discovery, now if you tell me we don't have the budget, I know it may be a bit of a digression. I moved away from EA a little bit frustrated because of the same problems that you said. Nothing is different from what you said. And so in my MBA, when I read my organization behavior, the first page says is, by virtue of being people, we are influential and political. There's not an enterprise in this company where there's no people and there's no politics. And it will be there, and it is an eternity, which we have to challenge. And I have the same problems what you have said. However, what I've done, and this is where is, we've started the journey with RPA, and we've built the processes on what we call as process discovery, PDDs. As we started building these, we started exporting to BPM. when we started, so I'm going to say this. I started with no budget for 1 year. I went, and I'll say this again. I went begging across. I got pennies. That pennies was not even sufficient to run the teams. So I could manage here and there. And then we showed the process back to the business and said, your processes on paper are a pain. Why don't you, well, let's do this something. We will help you free of. So, the word free is something everybody would like. There is politics. So we fixed those processes. Then my pennies got a couple of dollars. Those couple of dollars, actually, when the pandemic struck, everybody's budget was cut to 50%. My budget was cut to zero. And I'm talking of 2020 February. Again, I went to these papers, put this bunch of papers back, started helping the business. Then I went back to my management and I said, listen, with what we've done, we have not automated, we have actually improved the process, help them discover the process on a paper. It was very manual, very painful in nature. Then my dollars got a little bit of catching. That's where the first thing is we started unifying our process. Again, I didn't go strategic, I went tactical in this nature. I went to each line of business, started building a handful of process. Now, part of the thing is it's a very political question you asked. You need to know your top 5 processes and you need to know who are the top 5 influential people. Put a racing matrix, uh, show the value of it, and then that catching became a little bit more for me. Then I brought the tool to help me on the task mining, process mining. We could now accelerate our process discovery faster. And then slowly I came back and I said, listen, we are with the process discovery, we are building our L3, L2, L1. I think some companies have L7 also. This is where it is. So what do you want? I don't need money. All I need is help from you. The moment when you say it's a process problem, not a people's problem, people will start working with you because it's something helping them as well. Then when we went back to other line of business, oh, awesome. Then I went back to my management and they said, listen, I am connecting the dots. Now I need to go bottom up and top down. So, so effectively, this has given a lot of credibility to the C-suite. Why won't C-suite listen to you if you give this approach? Again, this is an approach I have taken. It's been successful. Whatever my catching is far-fetched. I have a lot of tools. I have a lot of startups working with me now, and we are showing success. So it's a year 3 for me for my journey. And honestly, I've been 7 years in Avaya. I've had the same pain even to this day. All of us will have. But by changing my path of being more strategic, I went tactical with the process discovery. And from tactical, I went back to strategic. Now it's a bimodal approach of going strategic and tactical. That is how I have evolved. And again, this is my journey, Jose.
What a great answer to wrap up our session together. As we often say about the leaders that we bring in here, and you're a great example of that. You're a great leader of intelligent automation, but also a practitioner. You know what it takes to collaborate, influence, simplify processes, eliminate non-value-added activities, reduce non-value-added activities, and then and only then you talk automation. Because if you take the other path, it's going to be a very short path. You have done such a wonderful job in communicating these concepts to all of us. And on behalf of our community, I want to say thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rameshwar Balanagu, who is head of automation at Avaya. And what a tremendous presentation from strategic to tactical. And Ramesh, go ahead and toggle your camera off. Thank you. We're going to wrap up this session, and we are going to meet at the top of the hour with another great leader of intelligent automation. And I'm talking about Satish, who is going to come up, going to share with us his journey of culture, business, and digital transformation at Mars. So the name of his session, the title of his session is How to Map the Real Impact of Process Mining on Your Business. But make no mistake, Satish Kamath is a lead enterprise architect and practitioner of culture, business, and digital transformations. So although we're going to be narrowly discussing process mining, your questions can cover the entire gamut. With that, I hope to see you back at our final session of our 3-day event on focus on process mining. So see you soon.